Emma stood at the edge of the old oak tree in her backyard, the one she and Noah used to climb every summer. The evening breeze rustled the leaves, and she remembered how his laughter sounded against the sky. Now, the tree felt too big, and the backyard felt empty. Noah had moved 3 months ago to the Mars Orbital Research Colony, chasing a dream of studying alien soil samples. Emma was proud of him, but the distance weighed heavily on her heart. Every morning, Emma woke to the same ache. She poured her cereal and stared at the empty chair across from her. She opened her phone, scrolling through old photos of them, painting murals on city walls, building makeshift rockets from scrap metal, and laughing under fireworks on Earth's Independence Day. Those memories felt like bridges to Noah, but they faded too quickly under the weight of real space between them. Emma tried calling him, but the signal delays frustrated her. By the time he answered, she often felt her words carried in slow motion across the void. By then, he might already be asleep. Their conversations grew shorter. He spoke of new experiments, unusual rock formations, and gravity drills. She spoke of school, her art projects, and the new cafe down the street. Neither topic seemed to reach the other's heart the way it used to. She felt guilty for feeling sad. Emma knew how rare it was for a classmate to go beyond the sky. Humanity had grown brave and bold, venturing into space like explorers once crossed oceans. This was the HFY spirit she admired, but it did not heal her loneliness. If anything, it reminded her that humanity could conquer worlds, yet still struggle with simple human feelings. One afternoon, Emma decided to do something. She sat at her desk, pulled out a sketchbook, and began drawing, not a galaxy or a spaceship, but a simple wooden bridge arching over a river. Underneath, she sketched 2 stick figures reaching toward each other. She wrote a message beside the drawing. Even when worlds apart, we find ways to cross the gap. She smiled, feeling a spark of hope. She had an idea. Emma rummaged through her basement and found the old radio transceiver her grandfather had. Built during the colony's early days, it was bulky and outdated, but he had used it to send messages between Earth and the moon bases 50 years ago. She wiped away the dust and studied the controls. Her first attempt fizzled into static. She frowned but kept going. Each evening, after homework and chores, Emma worked on the radio. She rewired circuits, tested frequencies, adjusted power levels. Sometimes the device emitted a high-pitched whine that made her ears ring, but she pressed on. She read old technical manuals, watched online tutorials, and scribbled notes in her journal. Friends teased her about playing with vintage junk, but Emma knew human ingenuity was timeless. If people once invented satellites on makeshift desks, she could find a way to beam a message to her friend at dawn one day. Emma finally heard a clear tone through the handset, a brief ping that sounded almost like a heartbeat. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "Noah, can you hear me?" Silence followed, then a faint crackle. Emma's heart pounded. "Noah, it's Emma. I miss you. I built this so I could talk." She paused, waiting. The line hummed for a long moment. Then, softly, "Emma." His voice was shaky, surprised, and her heart lifted. I hear you." They spoke for 5 minutes before the colony's schedule cut them off. Emma felt tears in her eyes, not of sadness, but relief. She closed her hand over the radio, feeling its warm metal beneath her palm. She realized that hope, powered by human determination, could span light minutes of distance. Humanity's story was not just about exploring space. It was also about holding on to the people who mattered most. That night, Emma placed the radio on her windowsill. She looked up at the stars glittering like distant cities. She no longer felt alone. She carried within her the knowledge that human hearts could bridge any gap, no matter how vast. Tomorrow she would finish tuning the device for longer calls. She would send him drawings of Earth's sunsets and the oak tree they both loved. She would keep trying until the connection grew stronger. Emma lay in bed, a gentle smile on her face. She whispered to the empty room, "Good night, Noah." She believed that soon his voice would fill her world again. And until then, she would keep building, keep hoping, keep showing the true HFY spirit, that humanity's greatest power was its ability to care, to create, and to connect across any distance. Asterisk Mira woke before dawn, her heart pounding with both excitement and fear. The repaired radio on her windowsill had fallen silent after that first precious call with Noah, but she had promised herself she would find a way to speak with him again. Today, a supply ship would pass within range of Mars' orbital research colony's relay satellites.
Ow.
If she timed it right, she could beam her voice and her words straight to him. She dressed quietly in the pale light of early morning. Her hands trembled as she carried the radio transmitter to her desk, where she arranged fresh batteries, spare wiring tools, and a small stack of paper and pens. On the top sheet, she wrote a simple note: "I believe in us. I will find a way." Underneath, she sketched two hands reaching across a starry gap. It was not like her fanciest art, but it came from her heart. Mira turned on the transmitter and adjusted the antenna's angle. She recalled the lesson she had learned yesterday. Human determination could bridge any distance. She smiled at how small that radio looked now, a humble box of metal and wires, yet full of promise. Ain't full of promises carefully, listening for the faint hum of the supply ship's passing signal. Minutes passed in tense silence. Outside her window, the horizon began to glow with sunrise. When the distant ping finally came, Mira held her breath. She gripped the handset and said, "Noah, it's me again. I'm here." Her voice wavered with joy. A crackle followed, then his voice. "Mira, you found the window." Relief flooded her. Warmed sounded stronger than before, warmed by hope. They spoke of everyday things. The colors of Earth's dawn, the way the wind smelled after rain, the songs their neighbors were playing. Each detail closed the gulf between them. After the call, Myra felt lighter, but also more determined. Wanted more than just voice. She wanted to share a piece of her world with him. She gathered her art supplies and began painting on a small canvas. She painted the oak tree in her yard, its branches full of green leaves, the way light and shadow played on the bark. Then she added her own figure in its branches, and beside her, Noah's outline fading into bright orange light, the sunrise. Above them, she painted the orbit of Mars in pale blue, connecting their worlds. For days, she worked on the painting, adding details: a tiny spaceship orbiting Mars, a shuttle passing overhead, a ribbon of light that tied Earth to Mars. When she finished, she looked at it with pride. It was a gift she could send across the void, carried by the next cargo shipment. It would take weeks to arrive, but she believed that even slow art could cross light minutes of distance. While she waited, Myra did not waste time. She volunteered at her community center, helping younger kids learn to build model rockets. She showed them how to solder tiny components and explained how satellites stayed in orbit. The children watched her with wide eyes, and in their questions, Mira found her own hope renewed. Teaching them reminded her that humanity's greatest power was not strength, but its willingness to share knowledge and care for one another. At night, she continued her experiments with the radio. She rigged a small solar panel on her windowsill to power the transmitter so she could call Noah without draining her batteries. She learned to anticipate the satellite's schedule and even built a simple signal booster from spare parts. Each success felt like a handshake across space, proof that human ingenuity could overcome any barrier. Weeks later, the cargo shuttle touched down at Mars Colony. A local courier reached out to Noah with Myra's painting rolled in a protective cylinder. He unrolled it in his small quarters, eyes shining. He recognized the oak tree at once and traced the painted ribbon of light with his finger. He held the canvas to the small window that looked out on the red dust plains. In that moment, he felt closer to Mira than he had in months. He grabbed his own writing tablet and started typing. He wrote, "Your painting came. It is beautiful. I see our sunrise together." He added a rough sketch of his lab, filled with glowing soil samples and strange rocks. He slipped in a thin chip of digital recording of his own voice and a short video of Mars's twin moons rising. Then he sent it back across the network, marked for Myra, with hope. When Myra received his message, tears sprang to her eyes. She watched the video of Phobos and Deimos, their pale shapes moving slowly against the dark sky. She heard Noah's voice calling her name. Her heart swelled. She ran outside to the oak tree and pressed her hand to its trunk. In the crisp evening air, she whispered, "I feel you here with me." That night, Mira slept under the shelter of the tree's wide branches, dreaming of two distant worlds joined by art and human spirit. She understood now that distance could not dim her feelings nor break their bond. Each invention, each gift, each simple word sent across the void was a testament to the HFY ideals she cherished, that humans would never give up on those they loved, no matter how far away they traveled. In her dreams, Mira and Noah climbed the oak tree together, side by side, their voices echoing across the silent sky. And when she woke, she carried that hope with her, ready to reach out, to invent. Mira sat at her desk, the small lamp casting a warm glow over her sketches. The reply from Noah had arrived the night before. He thanked her for the painting of the oak tree and sent a short video of twin moons rising over the red plains. Mira watched it again and again, her heart lifting each time she heard his voice crackle through the speakers. Yet as she closed the video window, the room felt empty once more. She missed him fiercely. She took a deep breath and looked around her room. Walls were covered in her art of Earth Mountain peaks, winding rivers, lantern festivals. Each piece had been inspired by memories she shared with Noah. Now she needed a new way to bridge the distance. An idea came to her, a live broadcast. If she could share her art and her voice as a live signal, Noah could watch and reply in real time on his colony network. Mira pulled open her drawer and found the communication module she had built for the radio. It had extra channels for broadcasting and receiving texts. She dusted it off and set it on her desk. Then she gathered her art supplies, notebooks, and a small projector. She plugged the projector into her laptop and arranged it so it would shine against the blank wall opposite her chair. She logged into the community network and created an event page titled Art Across the Stars. She wrote a short description, "Join me, Mira, as I share memories through art and voice. I hope my friend Noah can watch live on Mars. Let us show the power of human connection." Hit publish. Instantly, friends and neighbors began to RSVP. Mira smiled, her hope growing. She was not alone in this. Over the next 2 days, Mira prepared. She practiced her speech, rehearsing how she would describe each painting and each memory. She painted a new piece, a quiet village street lit by lanterns, with 2 figures standing under a glowing tree. One figure held out a lantern like a hand reaching across the sky. She titled it Light Returned. She hung it on the wall next to her oak tree painting. On the evening of the event, Mira arranged her workspace. The projector cast her oak tree painting on the wall. Beside it, she placed her radio transmitter and a small camera built from spare parts. She clicked Start on the broadcast. The camera's view showed the oak tree painting and her face framed by its branches. Her neighbor Lena popped her head in. "Ready?" she asked. Mira nodded. "Let's begin." Lena tapped the laptop and viewers' names began to appear. Friends from her class, neighbors from down the street, even a teacher from her art club. In a corner of the screen was a small text box that showed live comments. Someone wrote, "We love this." Another wrote, "Hope you reach Mars, Mira." Mira swallowed and began. "Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Tonight I share memories that mean the world to me. And I hope my friend Noah on Mars sees this too." She pointed to the oak tree painting. "This is the tree Noah and I climbed every summer. He carved our names in the bark when we were 10. When he left, I felt the branches sway with emptiness." She clicked the remote. The oak tree painting shifted aside, replaced by light. Returned. "This painting shows the lantern festival in our village. Last autumn, Noah and I released sky lanterns together. They drifted upward like glowing seeds of hope. I wanted to capture that feeling, and tonight I send it to him as light across the void." She paused, fighting tears. Comments scrolled. "Beautiful. Stay strong. We're with you." Mira let her heart settle. She remembered the HFY spirit. When humans face challenges, they invent, they persevere, and they lift each other up. Next, she shared her lantern painting. In progress, she explained how she mixed colors to match the sunset's glow and how each brushstroke was a wish sent across the sky. She encouraged viewers to share their own memories in the chat. Soon the screen filled with words, my grandmother's lullaby, a shared picnic under cherry blossoms, my sister's laugh. After 20 minutes, her voice grew bold. Noah, if you can hear me, I want you to know how much I miss you. I miss your laughter under that oak tree. I miss our talks about strange rocks and distant worlds. I want to see you again and share new memories. She held up a small envelope. I made this letter for you. It will go on the next cargo ship. It has more drawings and a map to our favorite spot by the river. At that moment, the radio transmitter crackled. Mira's heart leaped. She pressed the transmit button. Noah, it's Mira. Static broke up her words, but then, clear and warm, came his voice. Mira, I'm here. I heard everything. The art was beautiful. I felt like I was back under the tree. His voice trembled with emotion. Mira's eyes filled with tears of joy. I see you now, Noah. I see your moons. And the red plains. I feel your presence. They spoke softly, sharing how the broadcast felt like a small celebration of human spirit. She described the reactions of her friends and neighbors. He described how his colleagues peeked in at the colony's link, amazed by the simple art show. When the signal window closed, Mira turned off the camera. The viewer count dropped, but the chat messages remained on screen. We saw hope. HFY forever. Lloyd by the projectors, glow and felt new strength. She realized that broadcasting her heart had not only reconnected her to Noah, but also brought her community closer together. Mira powered down the projector and radio. She gathered her papers and envelopes, feeling proud. She had taken a risk and shown human creativity. She had reached across millions of miles. Hope was no longer a silent feeling in her chest. It was alive in every painted lantern and in every voice that had cheered her on. That night, Mira lay beneath her oak tree, the cool grass under her fingers. She whispered to the stars, "Thank you." She believed now that distance could not dim their bond. Tomorrow, she would write back and plan the next broadcast. Humanity could cross oceans, cross skies, cross worlds, and unite hearts. Asterisk Myra woke to soft rain tapping on her window. Steady rhythm calmed her, but also reminded her how quiet her life felt without Noah nearby. She dressed slowly and went outside, pulling on her boots. The garden was fresh with new green shoots. She knelt beside a rosebush where she and Noah once planted seeds together. She brushed her fingers over the soil and felt its cool promise. Even here on Earth, life could feel distant when someone you loved was gone, yet that same life offered tools to rebuild connection. She returned inside and sat at her workbench. The room was scattered with parts, circuit boards, lenses, a broken drone frame. Myra had rescued these pieces from the town's recycling bin. Yesterday she found a small camera module that still worked. An idea bloomed in her mind. She built a flying camera that could capture Earth's beauty and stream it to Noah. He lived among red plains and steel domes. She could send him a world of blue skies and green fields. In return, Mira set to work. She soldered wires under the camera, attached it to the drone frame, and tested each motor. The hum of the drill and whine of the soldering iron filled her workshop. Her heart thumped with both excitement and nerves. Human beings had once made entire cities with less. She reminded herself of that HFY spirit of inventors on distant planets using scraps to build hope. If she succeeded, she would be sending Noah sunlight and rain through her own hands. By afternoon, the drone stood on her desk like a small metal bird. She connected its transmitter to the old radio rig she used for voice calls. She aimed the antenna toward the sky and watched as the drone's lights blinked to life.
Outside,
the rain stopped, and a pale sun broke through the clouds. Mira carried the drone to her backyard, heart racing. She tapped her wrist pad. The rotors spun, the drone lifted smoothly, hovering above the rosebush before climbing higher. Myra held a tablet that showed the camera's view, wet green leaves, gray rooftops, and children splashing in puddles down the street. She pressed the stream button. The signal crackled and then cleared. In her workshop, She tuned the frequency to Mars relay bands. She whispered, "Noah, look at this." For a moment, silence hung across light minutes. Then, through the static, he spoke. "I'm watching." His voice was soft, amazed. On her tablet, she blinked back wet leaves and distant rooftops. And on his end, he smiled across worlds. The drone drifted over the garden, pointing down at the rosebush. Mira guided it past her favorite oak tree, capturing the twisting branches in high definition. She narrated into the mic, "This oak stood here long before us. It still grows tall, even after storms." She guided the drone toward the horizon where the sun slid behind dark clouds. "The rain brings life," she said. "It pours it, stops, and the sun returns. That cycle is our hope." She thought of Noah on Mars, where the air was thin and storms of red dust raged. She hoped her images felt like rain on his heart. After 10 minutes, the drone's battery warnings flashed. Mira brought it gently down and unplugged the power. She patted its side gratefully. The workbench was quiet again. The last light of day faded to dusk. Mira packed the drone inside and carried her tablet to the window. She watched the pale stars appear. Noah had whispered his thanks before the link closed. Distance still existed, but they had shared a sunset together. That night, Mira placed the rosebud she saved in a small vase beside her bed. She remembered planting it with Noah and smiling at his messy hands. She whispered his name and closed her eyes. In her dreams, the drone flew alongside a spaceship, carrying images of Earth's green fields to Mars's silent red plains. When she woke, Mira woke early with a new idea burning in her mind. She sat at her desk, looking at the empty wall beside her oak tree painting. What if she and Noah could meet in a shared space, even though they lived on different worlds? Virtual reality headset her cousin had sent her last year. It had gathered dust in a corner. Today, she would dust it off and build a simple VR world of their favorite spot under the oak tree. She unpacked the headset and plugged it into her laptop. The device's lenses glinted in the morning light. Mira felt a thrill. Human creativity had once built entire worlds inside computers. She would use that power now to bring hers and Noah's memories back to life. She opened a beginner's VR software package and began to sketch the digital landscape. Soft green grass, the wide trunk of the oak, the curve of its lowest branch where they had sat side by side. Line by line, she coded the tree's bark texture, the leaves' gentle rustle, the way sunlight filtered through the canopy. She added her own figure as simple avatar in a blue dress and then wrote code for a second avatar, which she labeled Noah. She programmed basic gestures so the avatars could wave or sit together. It was not a perfect simulation, but it was enough to feel like being there. For 3 days, Mira worked from dawn to dusk. She paused only for meals and to help at the community center. Neighbors stopped by, curious about her project. She showed them the headset and explained how VR could connect people across any distance. Some offered old computer parts. Others brought monitors and cables. Soon, she had a small workshop of helpers who admired her HFY spirit, her faith that human invention and kindness could span light minutes. By the 4th evening, the virtual world was ready for its first test. Ira put on the headset and sat. On her own oak tree branch in VR, she reached out, and the simulated breeze moved her hair. She heard a soft rustling of leaves through the headset's headphones. It felt real enough to make her heart pound with excitement. She spoke into the mic. "Hello, Noah. Can you hear me?" In her workshop, she tuned the transmitter and aimed the antenna skyward. The VR data stream began to flow through her homemade relay. She waited, imagining him putting on his own headset. Time stretched as she watched the loading screen. Then, suddenly, her screen flickered and showed his avatar materializing under the tree. Noah's avatar was rough, blocky at the edges, but it was unmistakably him in his lab coat. "Mira." His voice came through the speakers, low and amazed. She could feel his surprise, even through the digital code. She waved, and her avatar's hand followed. She guided her avatar to sit beside his and patted the virtual branch. "I made this world for us," she said. "I wanted to see you here with me." They sat together in silence at first, the oak tree's shade cool in VR. Then Mira began to describe the real oak tree behind her physical window, the way its roots curled, the small carvings in its bark, the way the air smelled after rain. As she spoke, Noah's avatar turned to face her, and he reached out to brush the virtual bark with his gloved hand. He said softly, "It feels real. Thank you." They spent an hour exploring their shared world. Noah pointed to a glowing sunset Mira had coded behind the branches. "Is that how Earth looks tonight?" he asked. Mira nodded. "Yes, I wanted you to see our sky." He leaned his avatar's head back and admired the color. "On Mars, it is always red," he said. "Tonight, I can taste Earth's blue sky." When their time ran out, the connection faded. Myra's avatar stood alone under the digital oak. She removed the headset and pressed her thumbs to her eyes, blinking back tears of joy. She felt closer to Noah than she had in months. Dad. Shared a moment that no distance could erase. The next morning, Mira printed out a simple instruction sheet for the VR world. She rolled it up with a note, "For Noah, let's meet again." She taped the VR software files onto a data chip and slipped both into an envelope. This envelope would travel on the next supply shuttle to Mars. It would take weeks to arrive. But she knew Noah would smile when he opened it. While she waited, Mira continued to refine the VR world. She added ambient sounds, birds chirping, wind in the leaves. She coded a tiny bench beneath the tree, and even a paper lantern floating in the breeze. Every new detail made their shared space richer, and every detail reminded her that human hope and invention were boundless. At night, Myra lay in her bed and closed her eyes. She could still see the virtual oak tree's branches overhead. She whispered to the empty room, "Good night, Noah." She knew that soon he would sleep under the same digital leaves. One day maybe they would both return to the real oak tree together under Earth's sky. Till then their HFY spirit would keep them connected across colors of planets, across minutes of light travel, across any distance. Mira sat on her rooftop, hugging her knees as stars blinked into the sky one by one. The warm air of summer wrapped around her, but her heart still felt cold. She looked up at Mars, a tiny red dot among the stars, and whispered, "Noah, are you seeing this too?" Weeks had passed since their last VR call. They had walked together under the digital oak tree, but since then, there had been silence. Mira checked the message logs every day, hoping for a reply. Nothing came. The Mars colony was entering a storm season, and all non-essential communication had been paused to save power. She understood, but that didn't stop her from feeling alone. She missed the sound of Noah's laugh, the way he always noticed the small things like the shape of a cloud or the rustle of wind through trees. Now, even her own world felt quieter. She wanted to reach out, but didn't know what more she could do. She had sent letters, art, voice messages, and even a virtual world. Still, the silence pressed against her like a wall. She leaned back, on the rooftop, staring at the stars. "Humans can build space cities," she whispered, "but we still don't know how to deal with loneliness." Her eyes filled with tears. Then she heard her own words echo in her mind, and something inside her stirred. Humans could build space cities. That was the point. Mira sat up suddenly. "We don't give up. We build. We try again." It was HFY, even if she couldn't talk to Noah right now. Maybe she could do something else, something that would remind him and herself of what they believed in. She grabbed her notebook and began sketching. Not a tree this time, not a drone or headset or painting. She sketched a small satellite. It had wings like a dragonfly, a spinning camera eye, and a tiny display screen. She labeled it Hope Flyer. Its mission would be simple: fly high, show beauty, and send messages of hope. The next morning, she shared her idea with her community. Center Science Group. Her friends gathered around the sketch. A microsatellite that sends video messages. Her friend Lena said, "That's amazing." Others nodded. One boy offered to 3D print some of the frame. Another girl said her uncle had spare solar cells. Within a week, Myra's quiet idea became a team project. They worked in the old workshop behind the center. It smelled like glue, metal, and energy. They soldered, tested parts, wrote simple programs, and fixed problems one by one. Mira didn't feel alone anymore. These people didn't just care about the tech, they cared about her dream. As the satellite took shape, Mira prepared her first message. She filmed herself under the real oak tree, holding a small sign that read, "No matter the distance, you're not forgotten." Her voice, calm but full of feeling, said, "This is for anyone who's ever missed someone far away. We're still here. We're still trying." The team named it HFY1, Hope Flyer. Day, the whole neighborhood gathered to watch. A small rocket, powered by solid fuel, carried the satellite into the sky. Cheers rose as the rocket vanished into the clouds. Mira watched with hands clenched, heart pounding. Somewhere above, her message now floated in orbit, circling Earth, broadcasting hope. Later that night, Mira climbed back onto the rooftop. She opened her laptop and connected to the satellite's feed. Her message played on loop as the satellite passed overhead. Stars glittered, and the red dot of Mars returned in the sky. She smiled softly and whispered, "I hope you see this." Noah. 3 days passed. Then late one evening, her radio buzzed. Crackle. Static. Then Mira. "I saw it." She froze, her heart leaping. "It came through one of our listening satellites," Noah said, his voice quiet but full of awe. "Gah. We caught the signal. The whole lab watched your message." One of the new recruits cried, "You did that?" Tears welled up in Mira's eyes. "I'm sorry for the silence," he continued. "The dust storms were bad, but every day I looked out and thought of the oak tree. And now, I don't just have the memory, have the message. Thank you." Mira held the mic close and whispered, "You're welcome. I missed you so much. I didn't know how else to say it." "You said it perfectly," Noah replied. "This is what humanity does. We find ways. Even when we're far, we reach across the sky." They talked for 10 more minutes before the signal window closed. Mira didn't feel cold anymore. She looked at the stars and knew she wasn't alone, not truly. Her voice, her hope, was now orbiting the Earth, touching lives she didn't even know. And on another world, someone she loved had heard it. Humanity might be spread across planets, but they were still one family, always reaching, always building, always hopeful. That was HFY. That was Mira. The wind was soft that evening. Mira stood under the oak tree, her hand resting on the old bark. The branches above her swayed gently, like they were waving hello. In her other hand, she held a letter. A real one, written on paper, no screens. No codes, just ink and heart. The last message from Noah had arrived 2 days ago. He said the dust storms on Mars were finally over. He said he was safe. He said he saw the Hope Flyer satellite pass overhead again. "I still watch your message every time it loops," he wrote. "It reminds me that we are never truly alone." Mira smiled when she read it, but she also felt something deep inside her, quiet sadness. Even with all their calls, videos, VR and signals, there was still a truth she couldn't avoid. He wasn't here. She couldn't see his real face or hear his laugh without static. She couldn't hand him this letter in person. The distance was still real. And yet so was the connection. She sat at the base of the tree, her back resting against the trunk. The leaves whispered above her. What? She opened the letter and began to read aloud, just like she planned. "Dear Noah, I wish I could say everything I feel in a simple message, but maybe words on paper feel more real. Maybe it's because we started with real things, trees, dirt, paint, sunlight. Every time I try to reconnect with you, I feel like I'm building a bridge across space. I've built many paintings, radios, drones, even virtual worlds. But this time, I'm not building, I'm just writing. Because even though we've done amazing things with technology, I want to remind you on myself that we're human first. Humans miss people. Humans get lonely. But humans also never stop trying. That's why I won't give up. I'll keep talking to you in any way I can. One day, when you come back, I'll meet you right here, under this oak tree. We'll sit in the same spot and watch the stars not from different planets, but side by side. She folded the letter and placed it inside a weatherproof envelope. On the front, she wrote, "To Noah, for the day you return to Earth." Then she tucked it into a small metal box she'd made, sealed it, and buried it under the roots of the tree, marking it with a carved stone. She stood up, brushing dirt from her hands, and looked at the sky. Somewhere out there, millions of miles away, Noah was looking up to. Later that night, Mira climbed back onto her rooftop, her favorite place to think. The stars were bright, and Mars was shining like a tiny ember. She set up her radio again, not to send a message, but just to listen. Even silence had meaning when you were listening with your whole heart. She closed her eyes and breathed in deeply. She thought of all the things they had done, the small drone flights, the virtual tree, the satellite in orbit. None of them erased the sadness, but all of them helped carry the weight of it. That was what humanity was good at. Not just surviving, but holding on. Holding on to each other. Suddenly, the radio cracked. Mira opened her eyes and leaned forward. Then came his voice. "Mira, are you there?" Her breath caught. "I'm here." There was a pause. "I just came out of the lab. The dust has settled. It's quiet tonight. I thought maybe you'd be listening." She smiled. "I'm always listening." He laughed gently. "I miss you. Sometimes it's hard to be so far. But when I think of the tree, of Earth, of you, it reminds me why I'm here. We explore not just for discovery, but for each other. So one day I can come back with something worth sharing." And they talked for a few minutes. No grand plans, no big inventions. It's just two people, far apart, yet close enough in spirit to make the stars feel smaller. Before the signal faded, Noah said, "One more thing, I'll come back. I promise. And when I do, meet me under the tree." "I'll be waiting," she said. When the connection ended, Mira sat quietly, her heart full not of pain, but of peace. The distance between them hadn't vanished, but it had changed. It wasn't a wall anymore. It was a road. A long one, yes, but one that could be walked. One message, one signal, one letter at a time. She looked at the stars and whispered, "We're human. We fall, we rise, we wait, we love, we keep going." That was HFY. That was her. That was them.